Chapter 101. Something was wrong. The mad-blooded tyrant couldn't help but panic. Suho broke through the cursed fog and pierced the tyrant's body mercilessly. How did... The mad-blooded tyrant screamed and stumbled. It was truly terrifying. He barely avoided it, but he almost got his neck cut instead of his shoulder. However, it was another reason that he was really puzzled. Why doesn't the light-blooded poison work? A curse that causes blood to run out of control and becomes mad-blooded poison. If that poison was used weakly, it has the effect of amplifying power at the cost of pain. But if the mad-blooded tyrant directly uses the poison, it will literally be burned at the stake. It was a cruel curse that caused the blood inside the body to boil and become a lump of charcoal in an instant. Because the medium of the curse was the blood flowing inside the body, it gave an absolute and inevitable death that could not be escaped. But why? Why? How could you be so sane? No, beyond normal, Suho's spirit was alive and running wild. In response to Suho's attack, the mad tyrant roared in anger. As expected, real demon nobles are different no matter what. At those words, someone from far away raised his eyes. The Queen of Insects, Plague Monarch, looks at the mad-blooded tyrant with a disgusted expression. Let's see if you can hold out this time. The tyrant poured an even more powerful curse of blood on Suho. It was no longer at the level of fog that raged and covered Suho. The Queen of Insects, Plague Monarch, is evaluating the level of the curse. But 2 out of 10. The Queen of Insects, Plague Monarch, spit out, saying that she just gave up her appetite. Suho casually broke through the curse and swung his twin swords. Young master, you have to aim for the head. I saw it too. The tyrant blocked the attack that was obviously aimed at his head with his shoulder. It was probably because he was wearing the corpse of the demon's jailer-like armor. That blazing face sticking out over the armor must be his weakness. Spring up, Quay. Quay's lance flew like lightning again and attacked the mad-blooded tyrant. The goal, of course, was his head. The mad-blooded tyrant frantically repelled the irregular attacks from the front and rear, shouting at his men. What are you guards doing? Come here right away and take this guy. Huh? His eyes widened as he hurriedly looked at the place where the demon guards were. An unbelievable sight was unfolding. The demon guards were burning and dying. Why are they suffering from light-blooded poisoning? Oh, that? I gave it to them. At Suho's words, the tyrant's eyes widened as if they were going to pop out. Suho has been poisoning them with light-blooded poison after he passed by the demon guards. He didn't know that the action would bring such a result, but it was the most perfect ending. While the tyrant panicked, Suho was already preparing another attack. Baru, let me ask one thing. Quay hasn't been caught, has he? Yes. That tyrant didn't even know that Quay was a shadow soldier. The power of the Shadow Monarch is the power to destroy everything hidden in the eternal darkness of the bottomless pit. The aura of death was a true fear that subdued the opponent just by touching it. In fact, because of that, Suho used to be scared by children when he was young. It was for this reason that Suho's memory was sealed by the power of the Shadow Monarch. But now, he was able to capture some of that energy. Okay, a quick calculation has been made. Suho immediately looked around and shouted, "Arise!" There were grotesque cries that echoed through the air. The Minotaur that Suho killed. Black shadows began to sway terribly from their corpses. Shadow release succeeded. Shadow release succeeded. Shadow release succeeded. However, before the soldiers united with their original form, Suho immediately attempted a shape transformation. Go. At Suho's command, the shadows of the Minotaur came together in a circle and soared up. Shadow Minotaur level 1. Shape transformation. Gauntlets. Weaponization. If Quay was a spear, this time the Minotaurs turned into gauntlets. 5 Minotaur heads with vicious bullhorns at the fore flew like cannonballs and crashed into the tyrant's body. As if hit by a truck, the tyrant was thrown backwards and crashed into a wall. The walls of the Colosseum collapsed on him, and the tyrant rose up through the rubble with a frightened swing of his arm. But the blows of black steam that had approached before he knew it began to pound his body mercilessly. A series of attacks was so fast enough to even react. The ruthless violence eventually crushed the body of the demon jailer in armor. What the hell is this? Suho confidently answered with an extremely sincere look. Bloodstone. What? He ignored the bewildered comments of Essel and Baru. I don't think such a lie will work. The mad-blooded tyrant gritted his teeth. Bloodstone. Is it the power of demon nobles? Oh, it worked? Essel was surprised. However, from the beginning, Bloodstone was a unique ability that only demon nobles had. The tyrant couldn't help but believe it. Hehehe. As expected, our young master is very clever. If this is the case, you will be able to command the shadow soldiers even in front of the apostles of Itarim. Baru was greatly moved. Until now, Sung Jinwoo, his ruler, had never summoned shadow soldiers by changing their form. In the first place, the side with all limbs attached could carry weapons, and it was much easier to fight, so there was no need for that. However, shadow soldiers are basically spiritual bodies. Suho's power has grown to allow them to freely transform from their previous state. It is truly unique and admirable. If His Majesty saw this, he would be so happy. More than anything else, there was something else that made him happy. I thought you would always be a young and weak ant larvae, but now you could even beat the Apostle of Itarim yourself. Beru, weeping tears of joy, watched as Suho unleashed a finishing blow on the tyrant who had completely exposed his Achilles heel. Use skill Blade Storm. The combined attack of Suho, the Blade Storm skill, Quay, and the Minotaurs drove the mad-blooded tyrant into a frenzy. But to be honest, no matter how out of touch Beru was, his eyes were accurate when grasping battle situations. The attack power is still insufficient. Even though he was wearing a demon's mask, his opponent was an apostle of Itarim. There was no such thing as too much. How dare this lowly demon? The mad-blooded tyrant, who was furious from head to toe, stood up resolutely while being attacked by Suho. His entire body was already covered in scars, but that was just the demon armor he was wearing. The original power of the mad-blooded tyrant hidden within was still alive. The flames of the tyrant suddenly became even hotter and turned blue, just like a mistburn. Feeling a sense of it, Beru hurriedly shouted, "Avoid him, he is risking his life to use the meteor trail." Meteor trail? He didn't know what that was, but Suho moved back. Then the bluish flames spewed out chased Suho like a living snake, and Suho crossed his twin swords to block the flames. A fire so powerful that the shadow soldiers floating nearby melted away, attacked Suho. At that moment, a thumping sound came from Suho's throat. Item, Fire Ghost Necklace, resists flames. Item, Fire Ghost Necklace has been destroyed. The D-class item that Suho had worn since he was in Egypt was greatly oxidized while protecting Suho until the end. Suho's spine felt chilly as he managed to move away. That was dangerous. Although he defended himself, that attack was something that could not be blocked, with only the endurance skill that increased physical defense. If it hadn't been for the Fire Ghost Necklace, he would have suffered severe burns. That was just an internal thing. On the outside, Suho looked perfectly fine, even after being hit by the mad-blooded tyrant's blow of conversion. How did you stay that way even after being hit directly by the flames? The tyrant was the most shocked he had ever been. Right now, Suho couldn't afford to open the shop window and purchase the Fire Ghost Necklace again. No way, must be luck. How could an insignificant demon dare to endure that? Bluish flames far more powerful than just a moment ago roared from his whole body. Young master, look out. Suho already dodged that and jumped without hesitation, backing away early on. How can I fight alone because I'm afraid? Now let's get this straight. Currently, he lacked both offensive and defensive power, but there just happened to be a lot of fire kindling and fuel to increase the attack power in that place. Suho raised his head and turned his gaze away from the rampaging tyrant and looked at the stands of the Colosseum. There were demons who had been watching the whole scene and couldn't help but be amazed. What? How did he to push the Tyrant King one-sidedly like that? Is he a real demon noble? As expected, Vulcan's son, anxiety and hope were mingled in that muffled noise. Are you going to keep watching like that? Suddenly, Suho's voice shook the Colosseum like thunder. The noise suddenly died down. Use buff, battle roar. Right before entering the demon world, Suho finally used the reward from the emergency quest he received after defeating the Hyunmu Guild. Suho continued to yell at them. The heavy sound that flowed from Suho's mouth shook the eyes of the demons who had been slaves to the tyrant for a long time. If you are truly demons, if you still consider yourself a demon? As Suho's words continued, the demons swallowed hard with nervous faces. Suho pointed at the mad-blooded tyrant wrapped in blue flames with his Vulcan horn and shouted, "Eat him! There is a dying demon's blood and flesh right there." The mad-blooded tyrant couldn't help but panic. He felt that the atmosphere of the slaves, who were completely under his control, suddenly changed. Suho finally smiled with satisfaction. Eat and be strong, like a demon to the core. With that, wild roars erupting from all sides and shook the Colosseum. The roar of the battlefield stimulates the demons' suppressed anger. A hot fire boiled in the hearts of the demons. The fear of the Tyrant King, who had reigned over them with vicious power for a long time, disappeared. Instead, a thirst for endless power rose up. The power of the terrifying Tyrant King. If only I could take that power as my own. I can become the Tyrant King too. I will eat that corpse. No, I will. All the demons started pouring down on the tyrant regardless of who would come first. Like an ignited spark. Demon, Usul muttered quietly.